Welcome to another episode of Interesting Times with Beck Lover, where I gather the most insane stories around the globe, locally, whatever's important in the news, whatever's breaking, and I give you my wild, sometimes funny, sometimes very dramatic, sometimes very serious commentary on what's going on in the world and what I think you should know. So make sure you subscribe and check out Interesting Times with Beck Lover. You can also check out my podcast called the Beck Lover Podcast, where I interview some of the most fascinating people in the world, people like Rachel Ray, celebrities, interesting people with interesting stories. But this podcast is about the world that we live in and just how strange it actually is. Sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. You can't even make this stuff up. So welcome to the Interesting Times with Beck Lover Podcast. Interesting times. Interesting times indeed, my friends, as the world continues to spin. All types of crazy things are going on in the world that we live in, and I'm here to keep you up to date. For those of you that may not know, the mogul of hip-hop music, Puff Daddy, also known as P. Diddy, who ran the city, now he's just called Diddy, is in the middle of a controversial ass war with some of the most famous people in the world. People like Andrew Tate have taken direct shots at P. Diddy and his accused gay lover, Meek Mill, who's known as a very hardcore rapper. He's had some of the biggest hits in hip hop over the last couple of years, and things just do not look good for Diddy. He's lost a lot of sponsorships. All kinds of crap is going on, and people are fueling the fires of gossip. And he's been pretty silent on social media since this has all started, except that he would proclaim his innocence of all the allegations that are being made against him. And Meek Mill is now dealing with this scandal because the whole world's starting to think that him and P. Diddy were doing more than just making music together. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The horrible conflict going on in the Middleeast, which has brought in many different nations into the problem. We've had massive protests throughout the world calling for the immediate ceasefire of the war in Gaza and for the world to liberate the Palestinian territories. And it's just been a horrible conflict. Tons of civilians have been killed, and a lot of innocent children and bystanders have been killed by the Israeli military. We're going to cover a lot about what's going on there. Doomsday always seems like it's around the corner. We'll cover any interesting subjects that relate with that today. And are we in World War III? We just don't know it, or is it coming? I don't know. We're going to find out, but make sure you subscribe, and I'm going to start reading all the headlines that I've gathered over the last day. So check them out, and here we go. Support for Israel among U.S. voters dwindles as the war drags on. Wall Street Journal poll finds. This is reported by the Israel Hayom. Conversely, only 19% feel the IDF hasn't taken enough measures. Wall Street Journal poll revealed Sunday a shift in American sentiment toward the Israeli-Hamas war. A significant portion of voters, around 42%, believe Israel's response to the October 7 attacks by the terror organization has been excessive. Conversely, 19% feel the IDF hasn't taken enough measures, with 24% considering its actions appropriate. So in that poll, the majority is against everything Israel's been doing in response to the October 7th attack. We've all been seeing these horrific images online of real footage of children being blown to pieces, men, women, children, starvation. Last week we had them being bombed as they were going to get aid. I just don't find any excuse for that with how advanced the Israeli military is, their intelligence, drones. It's just people are finding it hard to believe the Israelis at this point, and I happen to be one of them. And the fact that we can't criticize their government without being classified as anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic is absolutely preposterous. I can't even say the word. It's a joke. I am an American, and I love America with all of my heart. All of my heart. And I have vocally spoken against decisions made by the people that run this country, like getting involved in the Iraq war, like sending millions and billions of dollars to war and destruction across the globe over the last 100 years. And I criticize our politicians and our government all the time. Does that make me anti-American? No, that's what makes me an American. That I have the right to say, I think this is wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have that right. And I have criticized governments across the globe for things that they do that I think are wrong. I'm not a big fan of China at all. So, not the people, but their communist, totalitarian regime that doesn't allow people like me to say what they really feel about their own government because they disappear or get their social credit score lowered. So if I can criticize all these different governments, I have the right to criticize the Israeli government as a free citizen of the world that has the right to free speech. I love my Jewish friends. I have family that's Jewish. I do not agree with the amount of force that has been used. It no longer looks like you're just retaliating. It looks like you're leveling the place, killing everyone that gets in the crossfire. And I can't support that. As someone who lost his family in war, I can never wrap my mind over collateral damage. It doesn't mean I'm anti-Jewish. I have had many Jewish guests on my show. Half of my friends are Jewish. They might get mad at me. I'm not mad at the Jewish people. I'm mad at the Israeli government for its response. I think it's been very excessive, especially lately. And it doesn't show me that you're just trying to get the hostages out. It looks like ethnic cleansing is what it looks like. It really does. And for me to not say the truth just because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, then I'm not being real to myself or what I stand for. And I just truly believe it's excessive. There needs to be an immediate ceasefire. I blame the world governments also who don't do nothing or don't come, and stop this conflict. And it's just absolutely horrible. And I can't stand scrolling left or right anymore on my phone. And it's been going on since October 7th. And yes, I want the hostages that were taken by Hamas freed. And yes, I still keep them in my prayers. But two wrongs will never make a right, especially if you believe in God. And I do. Staying in that part of the world, I guess that poll taken by the Wall Street Journal is having some real impacts because Axios reports that Kamala Harris is calling for a ceasefire and says the people in Gaza are starving. Well, do you think that supporting that government and giving them billions and billions of dollars in weapons and basically a green light to do whatever they want maybe helps fuel that? I find it interesting that we were dropping aid the other day to the Palestinians from airplanes after what is now called the Flower Massacre, right? When we saw the images of people running to the aid trucks being blown up. I guess they're realizing this has had a significant impact in the voter base. The majority of people protesting here in the U.S. are liberals. The conservatives, believe it or not, are more towards supporting what Israel's doing. I think the reason for that is a lot of them are Christian, and they believe in that by helping Israel, it's like their God-given duty, no matter what they do, no matter what they stand for. That's the Holy Land. They're the promised people. And by doing this, Jesus Christ is going to come back faster. And there is a religious element that believes in that has power and influence over our politicians. So it's almost like this crisscrossing of ideas, which is why I tell people I'm not liberal or conservative. I'm a human being. I believe everyone has the right to live and exist. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. That's between you, the person you're doing with it, and God, if he wants to judge you if what you're doing is right or wrong. I am a human being. I don't have the right to judge you. I may not agree with your lifestyle choices. I might agree with them. That's for me to keep to myself. Live and let live. Okay? And this is the biggest problem we have. But getting back to Palestine and Israel, it must really be impacting because the amount of protests I have seen that have been nonstop, voter bases that they traditionally had in Michigan and all these other areas are now turning on the Biden administration. And the fact that she's actually now calling for a ceasefire, I think is evidence of what we just read about, the poll. Vice President Kamala Harris said on Sunday that people in Gaza are starving and called for an immediate ceasefire as part of a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas. Why it matters. Harris remarks were the Biden administration's most comprehensive recognition of the suffering in Gaza and strongest appeal for a ceasefire. They come as the Biden administration urgently pushes for a ceasefire and hostage deal before the holy month of Ramadan begins on March 10th. Now, Ramadan is the holiest time of the year for 2 billion Muslims who surround Israel. Their public image has definitely been destroyed. They've lost the public support, as mentioned in the earlier article. Continuing to do this type of action during Ramadan is only going to inflame the region and possibly lead it into a much wider conflict. And that's what I fear, and that's what I don't want for anybody. Given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire for at least the next 6 weeks. This is what's currently on the table, she urging Hamas to accept such a deal. What she's saying is what we are seeing every day in Gaza is devastating. We have seen reports of families eating leaves and animal feed, children dying from malnutrition and dehydration. Too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Well, Egypt and Israel dance to America's music. And I'm pretty sure if America told them to open the border, let the women and children out, they would. And the fact that we can't get in humanitarian aid, even though they all went down to where they were told to go down to, is unacceptable. I think in today's world, people can see it, and this is why people are upset. And this is why I tell my Israeli friends, you guys are losing this war, maybe not militarily, but you are losing supportive people that maybe did support you before, and it's not going to be good for your image going forward. This is going to be hard to sweep under the rug. People are paying attention. And if you don't allow the Palestinians to fully reoccupy Gaza and rebuild, then everyone will call it ethnic cleansing and genocide for the rest of history. And I don't think that's something the Jewish people want on their track record as the ones who have championed against genocide and ethnic cleansing. Since every movie we watch is about World War II and what happened to them, and never forget, the question will be, will they forget? Will the Jewish nation forget what happened to them and not allow the Palestinians to return and rebuild? I guess we will have to wait and see what happens in the next few months and years. Harris called the situation in Gaza inhumane and a humanitarian catastrophe, and said common humanity compels us to act. Yeah, but it's like, to me, it's like you're a liar, hypocrite. You sat there, the government authorized billions and billions of dollars to help feed this war machine, and then you're going to sit here and cry like, this is so bad, this is so bad, this is not good. It just, to me, it's like, it's a joke. And it seems to show really how funny this administration can be on taking a stance. In my opinion, either continue with what you're doing, massacre them all, or save them. You can't have both. And giving one hand to blow them up and then the other hand to feed them is like, it's a joke. It really is. So, but I hope there's a ceasefire for all of our sakes, and for Israel and Palestine and the whole region and the world. And all of us are tired of this conflict that's been going on for a long time. There needs to be a final and permanent ceasefire and solution that is fair to everybody. The Times of Israel reports, we will die and not enlist. Extremist Hardim block major highway for hours. The Hasidim, as they're known, the Orthodox, they refuse to partake in the Israeli military. And here you can see some footage of them being arrested, trampled, rioting basically in Israel. Hundreds of ultra-Orthodox Jewish men of extremist Jerusalem faction blocked a major north-south highway near Bnei Brak for several hours on Sunday in protest of growing calls for an end to blanket draft exemptions for their people. Videos showed demonstrations blocking Route 4 near the Givat Shmuel interchange while dancing and sitting on the road. Some held signs saying, we tell the high court we'll go to jail over the army and we will die and not enlist. Police forcefully removed the protesters from the road to allow traffic through. One border police woman was filmed aggressively kicking a protester sitting on the ground. And this shows the division between their own people when it comes to the military, violence, being involved in conflicts. And this is a question I have, as an American. Yeah, we've had drafts, but if it goes against my religious beliefs to possibly harm innocent people. Now, I believe in defending America. If we're attacked, I'll be the first one to grab a rifle. But when we're the invading power, I have a problem with that. So what do people that believe in God, that believe in thou shalt not kill, unless defending yourself, what do we do when we live in countries that want to draft us into militaries? Drop a comment. I mean, Muhammad Ali went to jail for this. He refused to serve in Vietnam. What do we do when forced or asked to do this? What do you think is the right answer? The Jerusalem Post, 1 killed, 7 wounded by an anti-tank missile fired into northern Israel. The wounded were all Thai workers, were evacuated by helicopter to several hospitals. 1 person was killed, 2 were seriously wounded, 4 others were moderately wounded, and 1 person was lightly wounded after an anti-tank missile was fired toward Margaliot in northern Israel on Monday morning, according to Israel's emergency medical service. The wounded were all Thai workers, and on Sunday night, Hezbollah claimed that the Israeli forces made 2 attempts to infiltrate into Lebanese territory. The terrorist movement said it fired at and set off explosive devices targeting the troops. This is reported by the Jerusalem Post, and this shows you that this conflict is beyond the borders of Israel, Gaza, and it is, you know, we have the Houthis in Iran hitting tankers in the Red Sea, so this has the potential to explode if it is not contained quicker. Now, getting back to P. Diddy and Meek Mills. Meek Mills denied being gay after fans believe he was the redacted name in the new Diddy lawsuit. Meek Mill denied being gay after fans questioned him about being one of the redacted names listed in a new sexual assault lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs. I'm from Philly. I don't do coke or freaky ass Molly. Nobody won't even offer me coke because I'm that heavy. No man or what would ever approach me about gay activity and the whole place don't get flipped. Woke up seeing this on every blog like they know I'm coming, laugh out loud. Y'all see these rappers with gay styles, they want that look. Leave that too sick them. I come from the gangster shit surviving in the jungle. The dreams and nightmares. Born Robert Ramik Williams wrote in a separate message on X. Here's a picture of him and Diddy real close and snuggy. When a fan told Mill, 36, that he had the right to remain silent, he replied, I have the right to say I ain't gay and I'll trash anybody that play with my manhood. The All Eyes on You rapper then tweeted about his sexual endeavors with women, saying that he has sex with women twice a day when she's around him. P don't control me rhymes with pussy, cat. Don't control me, but it's like hi, one love to gay people, but the juicy pussy do it for me. I done ran red lights to get that feeling y'all weird on here like devils, laugh out loud. So this started going on about a couple weeks ago. It must be getting to him. I guess all that pussy and red lights, because what did the last quote say here? The last quote said, I done ran red lights to get that feeling y'all weird on here like devils, right? He's run red lights. Well, I guess he really does run red lights for that pussy, because Meek Mills crashes a car amid rumors he slept with Diddy. Earlier this week, Diddy was hit with another lawsuit from someone accusing him of sexual assault. Producer Rodney Little Rod Jones alleges that Bad Boy Records founder groped him, showed him explicit videos and more. He also accuses Diddy of revealing 2 fellow celebrities he slept with, though their names were redacted in the suit. According to social media, however, the descriptions were pretty telling. One of the performers described was Nicki Minaj, and they speculated that Meek Mill may be Usher. Usher took it in his butter, maybe, by P. Diddy. We don't know. And that's why it's dangerous to gossip, and it's forbidden. And I don't think anyone should be speculating who it is, because you destroy people's lives, even just with false rumors and allegations. I stand strongly against gossip. People should not spread these rumors unless they have concrete proof. And even when they do, it's not your business. It's what they did in their personal lives. And if they don't feel comfortable talking about it, leave them alone. I don't know, Meek. I don't know. I don't know if he did or didn't. I don't know. And that's who am I to judge what he did or didn't do? I can't scope it. And who cares if he did? Like, is that going to pay your bills? Hey, you, without sitting there writing all this shit. Like, is it going to pay your bills? I mean, at least this show might pay my bills one day. Maybe if enough of you subscribe and I can make a living from this. But if it ain't paying your bills, why are you wasting so much time with this nonsense? Now, Andrew Tate, also known as Top G, The guy's had a very interesting couple of years, one of the most searched people on the internet. He says Andrew Tate accuses Meek Mill of having sexual relations with Diddy. American rapper Meek Mill has found himself amid controversy following explosive allegations made in a lawsuit against Diddy. However, the focus shifted as Andrew Tate entered the news, accusing and questioning Meek regarding Diddy's sexual assault lawsuit filed by Rodney Little Rod Jones. The lawsuit hints at potential homosexual relations between Meek Mill and Diddy. DJ Academics also created a video reacting to the case. Meek also hits out at him by tweeting, "I'm from Philly. I don't do coke or freaky ass Molly." The same thing I said earlier. Here we can see a copy of the post made on Twitter, aka X. So P. Diddy was having sex with Meek Mill and Usher. I'm the most famous man in the world and avoid speaking to famous people because they're all gay and weird. Former four-time kickboxing world champion internet personality Andrew Tate also joined the discussion by accusing the rapper and questioning whether Meek Mill and Usher were involved in sexual relations with Diddy. He tweeted, so P. Diddy was having sex with Meek Mill and Usher. So basically, I'm assuming this is where it all went viral from, since Andrew Tate is one of the most viral people in the world. But I would like to remind Andrew Tate, as a Muslim, as a new Muslim, quote unquote, supposedly as someone that practices Islam now and believes that Islam is the truth, gossiping and backbiting in Islam are strictly forbidden. It means you may not have studied Islam enough yet to understand the ramifications of saying these types of things to millions of people if they are not true. You will be punished severely for gossiping and backbiting. It's one of the gravest sins in the religion of Islam. As a matter of fact, the punishment for gossip in Islam is that in the grave, when you die and you are in your grave, they believe that there's punishment for anyone who may have been evil in this world, and they pay for some of that evil in their grave while they are waiting for the day of resurrection when all of humanity will be resurrected and face God for their actions. Your grave becomes like your own personal heaven or hell while you're waiting to be judged by the Supreme Being. I'd like to remind Andrew Tate that backbiting is strictly forbidden. And unless you have clear-cut proof, even then you should not gossip about others because you can destroy their lives and lead them to do things that are horrific. Just a reminder, Top G. CNN reports wildfires have devastated the Texas cattle industry and the effects may be long-lasting. So if you like steak, you like beef, you like burgers, shit's about to get real. When Shane Pennington, 56-year-old cattle farmer near Canadian Texas, first saw flames from an enormous wildfire approaching the ranch as he manages, his first concern wasn't his home. It was his animals. He told CNN he returned to the ranch to find out that 50 of the cattle were dead, with nursing cows desperately searching for their lost calves. And that's very tragic. And I do consume beef. And I can tell you that if enough of them disappear, we're going to have a very big shortage in meat, and that Big Mac is going to go up. The state is home to about 4.1 million beef cattle, according to David Anderson, professor of agricultural economics at Texas A&M University, and more than 85% are in the panhandle, according to Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller. There's no grass, there's no water for the livestock. We've lost over 3,000 head, which is a very small number that will double or triple easily. We've got cattle that we're going to have to euthanize because of the damage to their hooves, their udders. We'll just have to put them down. Your job is to keep them alive, not to destroy them. He said it's tough. Even if they survive it, it's more than likely they're going to get pneumonia, they're going to get sick, they're going to die. So this is really horrible. The cattle business in Texas is worth an estimated $15.5 billion, making it by far the most profitable agricultural commodity in the state. There are millions of cattle across the panhandle, specifically with some counties. The losses could be catastrophic for those counties. Now, I was born in Texas. I grew up in New York City my entire life, and I see cows everywhere. Like everywhere I've driven to Texas, I see cows. So it really is one of their largest industries. It's definitely going to impact that industry tremendously. So I hope you're stocking up on ground beef, son. Trump wins as Supreme Court sidesteps political landmines. This was a big article the other day. US Supreme Court has slammed the door on Colorado's effort to remove Donald Trump from its presidential primary ballot and on every other state that has made or is considering efforts to disqualify him, which most people that have half a brain knew they weren't going to get away with that. It was all for the clout, as they say. So he's on the ballot, folks. For those of you that think he's going to be Jesus Christ, even if he wins and save the whole world, which I don't care who's the president, with the amount of corruption we have, the amount of different people in power that are not doing what's right for our states, our cities, our nation. No one man, I don't care who occupies that. Maybe they can stop the bleeding, but we're going to need 20, 30 years to fix the last 100, where this country has been chiseled away from a massive superpower that made everything till we make nothing anymore compared to places like China. We've lost our place in the world, and soon maybe even our currency might be replaced. So no one man's going to fix it that fast, I promise you. But hey, if you believe he's the one, he's the one. We know the other guy ain't fixing shit. Jack Tiera pleads guilty to leaking sensitive national defense information. The Massachusetts Air National Guardsman accused of posting a trove of highly classified intelligence reports and other documents on social media pleaded guilty on Monday to willfully retaining and disseminating national defense information. He's only 22 years old. He pleaded guilty to all 6 counts he faced under the Espionage Act during a hearing on Monday morning. This is reported by CNN. He has agreed to sit for a debrief with members of the intelligence community and the Department of Defense, court documents say, as well as to turn over all relevant documents he has or knows the locations of. In exchange, the prosecutors have said they will ask a judge to impose a sentence of 200 months in prison or over 16 years. The hefty sentence recommendation is far less time than the potential decades-long prison sentence he could have faced had he not struck a deal. Prosecutors have also promised not to charge him with additional counts under the Espionage Act. The final sentence will ultimately be decided by a federal judge during September. The Massachusetts native has been in custody since he was first arrested in April 2023. So he's 22 years old. He'll be around 35 to 38 by the time he gets out. So might not be worth it to pull basically, what's his name did, Assange did, WikiLeaks. Now, France becomes the world's first country, reported by CNN again, to enshrine abortion rights in the Constitution. France becomes the world's first country to enshrine abortion rights in its Constitution on Monday, the culmination of an effort that began in direct response to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Lawmakers from both houses of the French Parliament voted 780 to 72 in favor of the measure, easily clearing the 3/5 majority needed to amend the French Constitution. So they're literally changing their constitution. So you have the right, if you just couldn't get a condom or a contraceptive or take birth control, or if you're a guy, pull your shit out, pull it out. They're giving you the right to take out that soon-to-be baby in the Constitution of France. The amendment states that there's a guaranteed freedom to abortion in France. Some groups and lawmakers have called for stronger language to explicitly call abortion a right. Lawmakers hailed the move as a history-making way for France to send a clear signal of support on reproductive rights, with abortion under threat in the U.S., as well as in parts of Europe like Hungary, where far-right parties have come to power. Following the vote, the Eiffel Tower was lit up with the words, "My body, my choice." Mexico City, one of the largest cities in the world, is months away from running out of water. Okay? That's pretty crazy if you think about it. Mexico City, a sprawling metropolis of nearly 22 million people and counted among the world's largest cities, grapples with a dire water crisis. A complex web of issues, including geographical challenges, disorderly urban expansion, and aging infrastructure prone to leaks, is exacerbated by the effects of climate change. Several neighborhoods have suffered from a lack of water for weeks, and there are still 4 months left for the rains to start. The city's vulnerability is deeply rooted in its historical development. Constructed on a high-altitude former lake bed, Mexico City faces ongoing challenges such as subsidence due to its clay-rich soil, seismic vulnerabilities, and heightened susceptibility to climate change. Urban expansion has transformed its natural landscape, replacing wetlands and rivers with concrete and asphalt, exacerbating seasonal extremes of flooding and drought. Mexico City relies heavily on its overexploited aquifer, which provides roughly 60% of its water, but also contributes to the city's alarming subsidence rate of 20 inches annually. So that is a very large city to have this type of trouble brewing when it comes to water. I mean, water is the essence of life. I really hope Mexico City can figure this out, modern engineering, but that's pretty scary if you live in Mexico City. Besides, the cartels are probably going to hunt you down if you don't listen to them or make a post about them. You know, there's other things that'll kill you in Mexico, like the water itself, they say, Montezuma's revenge, but I don't know. Not having any water, you're pretty much guaranteed to die. For those of you that have been wondering, are chemtrails real? It's been this ongoing debate. They call it conspiracy theory and all that stuff. I think this article will put the debate to rest. I think it's pretty safe to say that chemtrails are not only not a conspiracy theory, they're 100% real. The question is, what the hell do they do to us? What is the effect on the environment? What is the effect of these chemtrails on living organisms? Reuters, very reliable news source. This article says, safety fears stall UN bid to examine sun-blocking climate change tech. UN delegates on Thursday withdrew a motion calling for more research into technologies that aim to fight climate change by reflecting the sun's rays back into space, amid concerns about health and environmental risks. Some who opposed the draft resolution at the UN Assembly were also worried that the use of solar radiation modification, also known as SRM, might let big polluters off the hook, organizations watching the debate said. Switzerland and Monaco first tabled the resolution on examining the geoengineering technology in December, and it was discussed during this week's assembly in Nairobi. The original version called for the convening of an expert group that would produce a report examining SRM's possible applications, risks, and ethical considerations. One of the best-known proposals for using it involves blasting sulfur dioxide, a coolant, into the higher reaches of the atmosphere. There are only a handful of SRM projects in operation, so they're already in operation. Okay? Some scientists say SRM could be made available when necessary to avert climate tipping points. Critics are worried about possible impacts on weather patterns and agriculture, especially in poorer countries. They also fear SRM could serve as an excuse to delay cutbacks on greenhouse gas emissions. After going through 6 revisions of the past 2 weeks, the resolution was withdrawn on Thursday. The science is very, very nascent and the risks are unknown, he said. This is Mohammed, Kenya's climate envoy. At this stage, there are many solutions to the regulation of greenhouse gases. These technologies cannot tackle the root cause of climate crisis and would instead enable major polluters to delay the urgent need to phase out fossil fuels. So they've been spraying all types of chemicals and shit in the air. We don't even know where these handful of projects are. I'm pretty sure the US is one of them because I keep seeing these trails that just stay up there forever. And then you see a normal plane that's not doing this type of stuff fly over and their trail or jet line, as we call it, disappears pretty quickly. So I think there really are chemtrails, friends. Here's the proof. Record low births in Japan, okay? They're either pulling out or taking birth control or I don't know what they're doing, but these guys and girls, they ain't having kids. That's one thing they're not doing. Birth rates continue to fall. This is reported by The Guardian. As young people increasingly reluctant to have children due to the bleak job prospects, cost of living, and work culture. The number of babies born in Japan last year fell for an 8th straight year to a new low. Government data has shown, and a top official says it's critical for the country to reverse the trend in the coming half dozen years. The 758,000 babies born in Japan in 2023 were a 5.1% decline from the previous year, according to the Health and Welfare Ministry on Tuesday. It was the lowest number of births since Japan started compiling the statistics. The number of marriages fell by 5.9% to 489,000, falling below 500,000 for the first time in 90 years. One of the key reasons for the declining births, out-of-wedlock births are rare in Japan because of family values based on paternalistic tradition. Surveys show that many younger Japanese balk at marrying or having families. That's probably because they're on Tinder, banging like rabbits, and they just want to have fun. Oh, yes, the Japanese want to have fun. Discouraged by bleak job prospects, the high cost of living that rises at a faster pace than salaries, and corporate cultures that are not compatible with having both parents work. Crying babies and children playing outside are increasingly considered a nuisance, and many young parents say they often feel isolated. The period over the next 6 years or until the 2030s, when the younger population will start declining rapidly, will be the last chance we may be able to reverse the trend. So basically, if you're Japanese, we need you guys to fuck and have as many kids as you can, in a nutshell. Okay? NPR reports Putin warns of nuclear war if NATO sends troops to Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered his annual State of the Nation address on Thursday, issuing explicit nuclear threats to the West, even as he assured Russians their country could both emerge victorious from the war in Ukraine and thrive economically at home. The Kremlin billed the speech as akin to a campaign platform reveal, no less than Putin's vision for Russia's future ahead of March election, in which he faces no serious competition for a fifth term. Part of the reason he feels he's not facing any competition is the guy's basically a dictator. His opponent, who was in jail, somehow mysteriously died, and he was just buried this week. Navalny, if I'm not mistaken, that's how you pronounce his name. So, of course, he doesn't have anyone that's going to threaten him in the position. The death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny under mysterious circumstances in a remote Russian prison colony this month has drawn only further global attention to the government repression of anti-war sentiment. So basically, in Russia, just get rid of your enemies or your political opponents. Judge blocks Texas law authorizing arrest of suspected illegal immigrants. This is reported by the Washington Post. Federal judge has blocked the Texas law empowering police across the state to arrest immigrants suspected of entering the country illegally, a measure derided by advocates as permitting racial profiling and criminalizing anyone who looks like an immigrant. The bill was the marquee proposal the Texas legislature passed last year to further expand the state's role in border security. Has been an ongoing battle with the Biden administration over immigration enforcement to allow Texas to permanently supersede federal directives on the basis of an invasion would amount to nullification of federal law and authority, a notion that is antithetical to the Constitution, has been unequivocally rejected by federal courts since the Civil War. So that whole border crisis is still going on down there. Texas is trying to fight back. The feds keep blocking them. And all of us are feeling the impact of these migrants. Oregon. It's not a place you really hear much about. The movie The Goonies. I believe that was Oregon. Yeah. In Oregon, depending where you are in the U.S., how you pronounce it, I say Oregon. They have passed a bill to recriminalize the possession of hard drugs. Changes Measure 110. Salem, Oregon. This is reported by KATU number 2 ABC News. The Oregon House passed a bill 51-7 this last Thursday, that recriminalizes possession of hard drugs, making changes to voter-approved Measure 110, which decriminalized possession. House Bill 4002 now moves to the Senate for consideration. Some lawmakers, however, were unhappy with the changes that were made to the bill before it reached the House floor. Some Democrats said they would have supported the bill before it was amended. The amendment was the result of a compromise between Democrats and Republicans. Many of the House floor said their vote for a bill changing Measure 110 was not an easy one. Unfortunately, I know deeply the long-lasting impacts of what it looks like to have a father who chooses the baggie and the bottle over being a parent, and a father who left me wondering, am I not good enough? Said Representative Anessa Hartman, Democrat from Gladstone, Oregon. Some Democrats like Hartman were unhappy with the changes to the bill that will allow counties to decide whether to offer treatment over criminal charges. But most still voted yes, saying the good in the bill outweighs the bad. The bill will use $22 million to upstaff criminal justice agencies and will spend another $20 million of grants for counties to set up deflection programs. Those will allow some arrested with drugs to choose counseling over charges. 23 counties have expressed interest and will receive at least $150,000 to set that up. While the bill steps up in the right direction, there are many major shortcomings. So basically, they tried let everyone just do drugs. I guess they were hoping all these people would just die and would get rid of the problem. But I've noticed, man, some of the drug addicts in my neighborhood, these people have been doing fucking drugs and drinking for years, not working, chain smoking. These motherfuckers are living more than all my friends that go to the gym. It's crazy. Obviously, substance abuse is heartbreaking. I've had many friends and family who have dealt with that, who have lost family to that. I've lost friends and family to it. The easiest thing to do, folks, is to never get addicted. I don't care how bad things are. I've been addicted to cigarettes for a big part of my life, and it's very hard to overcome addiction. And when it impacts your life like that, it's like you're alive, but you're really not. And you cannot be a functioning member of society. And I think just making it all legal, I do believe people have a choice, but there's just some drugs that shouldn't be legal. I'm sorry. Let me know where you stand on that. Drop a comment. Former US diplomat pleads guilty to spying for Cuba for more than 40 years. Former career US diplomat who had served as a US ambassador to Bolivia has pleaded guilty to working as an agent of Cuba for more than 40 years. Victor Manuel Rocha, 73, was charged with secretly passing information to the communist-run government in Cuba since 1981 while working for the US State Department. I mean, it's just crazy how people can penetrate these positions of authority where their loyalty is not to the US. And this could have been very detrimental to American security. And it was. This guy should be hung, in my opinion, for being a traitor. He should be hung off a tree. And they should do it in Times Square. Like, I would love to see some of that shit again. White Island volcano tour operators ordered to pay millions to victims, reported by the BBC. Remember, there was a huge volcanic eruption in New Zealand. There was a tour operator. They say that the tour operator neglected a lot of warnings, and a lot of people died on that tour, and they now are able to get monetary compensation from that company. Now, if you want to get revenge on someone or someone you don't like in your family, or if you have a kid that's a pain in the ass, or daddy, I want a pet, or daddy, I want a dog. I don't want fucking pets. I don't have pets. I love dogs, to look at them for a few seconds and keep it moving. I look at people walking in the street in the freezing cold, early days in the morning, plastic bag on their hand, picking up piles of fucking dog shit. And I just don't have a desire to have to worry about that. I have enough problems in my life. You know, I have enough problems in my life. At that point, you might as well have children, because you're going to be doing the same thing. But eventually you stop having to pick up their shit. So for those of you that love dogs, I get it. Like, they're cute and they're so, but I don't want to deal with that. I just don't want to deal with that. So what you could do to maybe push your friends or family away from wanting any type of pen is suggest for them to have a fish. And then there is one little fish that they've discovered. This little bastard, okay, he makes the same kind of noise as an airplane taking off. I shit you not. This is in popularscience.com, popsci.com. Some of Earth's fish are known for their Herculean strength and funky vision. For the less than 1 inch long Dionalia cerebrum, okay? Dionalia cerebrum, it's their loud vocals. This tiny fish in the minnow and carp family can produce sounds louder than an airplane taking off, as perceived by human ears at a distance of 328 feet. Dionalia cerebrum is a small and translucent fish that was first discovered in 2021 in a shallow and murky mountain stream in southern and eastern Myanmar. It has the smallest known vertebrate brain, but it can hold its own with other members of the animal kingdom of all sizes when it comes to making noise. Small snapping shrimp can produce popping sounds of up to 250 decibels, while large elephants use their trunks to make noises up to 125 decibels. Now, my whole thing is, how the hell did they just discover this fish so recently, and when it's so loud, supposedly? That doesn't make any sense to me in this article. Or was it because someone outside of Myanmar decided to say, hey, what's that noise? And then they discovered the fish. Because I'm pretty sure the people of Myanmar knew about this fish. If it makes a noise that's that loud, how has it just been discovered now? It doesn't add up. Take it up with the scientists. I don't know who gets to claim what. We call in history, and from American perspective, this part of the world was the new world because the people that invaded and wiped out the Native Americans was a part of the old world. But it wasn't discovered because the old world there was already people here. There was already people. It's like, how do you judge history? What's the proper terminology? From what perspective, friends? That's what I'm trying to teach you on Interesting Times with Beck Lover. Here's another article. Mexico's, because we've got to get back to Mexico again. Mexico's most dangerous active volcano erupts 13 times in one day. So they have a water shortage and they have some big ass volcanoes going off. I think I'm going to skip going to Mexico for a while. Another place you can skip is Haiti. Haiti declares a state of emergency after mass prison escape, CNN.com. Haiti's government declared a state of emergency on Sunday after thousands of inmates apparently escaped from its largest prison during a surge of gang violence that has upended the Caribbean nation for months. The government cited the deterioration of security, and it's become a very dangerous place recently. There's been some gang wars going on. A total of 3,597 prisoners escaped. Do you think some of these Haitians are going to get across these open borders that we got? Some of these hardened criminals? I can only imagine how a Haitian jail is. Poor country that just never seems to catch a break has erupted into complete chaos again. And gang members have also terrorized the metropolitan population, forcing more than 300,000 people to flee their homes amid waves of indiscriminate killing, kidnapping, arson, and rape. Some 1,100 people were killed. I mean, it sounds literally like they just took over the country, these gangs. My heart goes out. These people of Haiti never catch a break. Earthquakes, this, that. They live in poverty, one of the poorest places in the world, and they just can't catch a break. My heart and prayers go out to the Haitian people. U.S. weighs airdropping aid. We know they did this already. This is an old article. And this is how I'll finish today's show. They caught something they've never seen documented before. There's a reason why they call the orca killer whales. Lone orca kills great white shark in less than 2 minutes by ripping out its liver. Now, you know a great white, the movie Jaws? That shark's no joke. Disturbing footage shows the moments a single orca chased down a great white shark and killed it, then swam away with the shark's liver in its jaws. New footage captures a lone orca killing and eating a great white shark in just 2 minutes. I mean, if you ever question who dominates the ocean, it's the great whites, the orca killer whales, and these massive, great white sharks. But you can see a little bit of the footage here of the battle. It was pretty intense. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. I mean, a great white shark is no joke. And even though maybe the killer whale's bigger, it's just insane. But I guess it's that mammal intelligence, Remember, whales have warm blood. If you have enjoyed this episode of Interesting Times with Beck Lover, please check out my podcast where I interview amazing people across the world, the Beck Lover Podcast. You can find all of my links at Beck Lover, that's BEKLover.com. Follow me on Twitter, now known as X. I host live spaces. You can also follow me on Instagram at Beck Lover NYC, like New York City, Beck Lover NYC. And just remember, we live in an interesting world, and this has been Interesting Times, Beck Lover.